This week's parasha, Parashat Acharei Kedoshim, starts off with the story of the death of Nadav and Avihu. So we're back to their death, but now it's being used as a warning to Aharon to stay safe. Okay, so what's going on over here? We spoke in the past about what Nadav and Avihu did. They came into the Holy of Holies with this foreign fire, this Esh Zara. They weren't supposed to go in there, and we give different interpretations about what were they doing. Was it a sin? Was it not a sin? What was their actual sin? And Chazal have many opinions. Why does it keep saying it's Lifnei Hashem, which kind of sounds like it wasn't a sin? But then we have Chazal giving us naming different other kinds of side sins. Like what was going on over there, and why are we bringing it up again now when we already learned about it back in Parshat Shmini? And what's going on here? So the parsha starts off, Hashem spoke to Moshe after the death of Aharon's two sons when they came close to Hashem and died. And God spoke to Moshe, go speak to your brother Aharon, and you can't come in whenever you want into the holy. He says, tell Aaron he can't go past the parochet, he can't go into the holy of holies, to the place of the Aaron, because if he just goes in there whenever he wants, he's going to die, because that's where Hashem's holy presence is, that's where the Anan is, that's where the cloud is, and Aaron, you got to stay safe, don't follow in the ways of your sons. Okay, so what's going on over here? Why are the sons being brought down over here? So comes along Rashi, and Rashi explains. He quotes Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who says a mashal. He says there was a sick guy came to a doctor, and the doctor tells the sick guy, Al tochar tzonen, don't eat cold food, and he tells him, don't sleep in a damp place. That's what one doctor told him. Ba'acher, another doctor shows up, V'amar, and he tells him, don't eat cold food, don't lie in damp places, because if you don't do that, you won't die. If you do that, you're going to die. So don't do it. So this way you'll live, just like so and so died. So says Rashi, says Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, this second doctor is going to inspire him more and get him to really keep it more than the first guy, because the first guy doesn't give an example. The second guy gives an example. If you do this, you're going to actually die like that guy died. So he says, so too over here, it's saying over here, Acharei mot shnei bnei Aaron, it's saying, don't go into the Holy of Holies just like Aaron's sons died. And if you tell that to Aaron, that's going to mezarez him, it's going to inspire him to listen to those words, it's going to take him more seriously, and it's a good way to teach Aaron the lesson. Okay, nice Rashi. What's the big question? It's a nice musar. Rabbis are going to quote this Rashi. It's like the very beginning of the Parashas, the first Rashi. Very nice. When you teach somebody a lesson, teach them with an actual example. But wait a second. We're talking about Aharon HaKohen over here. We're talking about the holy Aharon. He really needs an example, but he's not going to listen to HaKadosh Baruch Hu the first time. Hashem tells him, don't go into the Holy of Holies until I tell you to. He's not going to listen. You actually have to give Aharon HaKohen the example of the kids. So while it's a nice midot that we learn from Rashi and from the Mashal of Elazar ben Azariah, it's very nice. But we're talking about Aharon HaKohen over here. Why? He needs the example of his kids dying? It's his kids also. Like if anybody would know not to go into the Holy of Holies, it's Aharon that's going to learn the laws. So what's going on over here? Another question, this one actually brought down in the Zohar. The Zohar asks, he says, I don't understand, why does it say Acharei mot shnei bnei Aharon? Why does it say that after the death of Aaron's two sons, Rabbi Yosei Amar says, Rabbi Yosei, Acharei mot Nadav ve'Avihu mi ba'ilei. It should say after the deaths of Nadav and Avihu. Say, after Nadav and Avihu died, why are they called bnei Aharon in our parsha? God tells Moshe, tell Aharon after the death of Aaron's sons. No, say after the deaths of Nadav and Avihu. We know they're Aharon's sons. So why are they called here Bnei Aharon? Okay, those are the questions from the parasha. Comes along the Shvilei Pinchas, or Pinchas Friedman from Belz, the Rosh Kolel, and he says the following idea. I thought it was a very cool idea. He says, okay, what was the sin of Nadav and Avihu? What did they do wrong? What was it all about? Now, we said there's many opinions that are brought down in Chazal. What they did wrong, did they do wrong? He brings down an Orach Chaim HaKadosh that actually it wasn't necessarily what they did was so wrong, but because the Orach Chaim HaKadosh brings down that they had the death of a kiss of the Neshika from Hashem, that tzaddikim die with the kiss of God. That's actually how they died. And he says, I don't know if it was a mistake or not a mistake, but normally Hashem comes and brings the tzaddikim in a beautiful way. They over here went over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to get that kiss themselves. So normally Hashem comes down, brings that tzaddik up with the Neshika. Here they, so to speak, were going towards Hashem for Hashem to take it. Explains the Shvilei Pinchas based on this Orach Chaim HaKadosh, that it seems to be that there was a little bit of like a suicide mission over here of Nadav and Avihu. That they knew they were going into the Holy of Holies, and they knew they might die, but they did it anyways. And they died that beautiful death of the Neshika from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's how the Shvilei Pinchas learns over here, that there's a certain level of Mesirut Nefesh, a certain level of, okay, I want to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want to get into this Holy of Holies, and even if I'm going to die doing it, it's worth it. So the question is why? Why in the world would they want to be doing that? Why would they want to do that? Why would they think it's the right thing? And based on this idea over here, it doesn't seem that there was that God kind of like, did take him in this beautiful kind of way. So maybe it wasn't as bad as we might see from some of the other approaches they take. I listened to a Devar Torah once from Rabbi Khan, who he has a whole long approach saying that no, they actually didn't sin over here. That's what happens when you go into the Holy of Holies, and that's just the result. But not necessarily. That's why I keep saying it's always before Hashem, Lifnei Hashem, Lifnei Hashem. And we spoke about in a previous recording last year that it seems to be the service they were doing was the Yom Kippur service, and it worked. It brought down a second fire into the Holy of Holies. So what's going on over here? Why would they do this Mesirut Nefesh? If we go back to Parashat Shemini, where we actually have the death of Nadav and Avihu, where they actually go into the Holy of Holies with that foreign fire. So back in that parasha, it says over there, after they die, but they die back in Parashat Shemini, and now it appears to be that Aharon was sad, his son just died, so Moshe comes to Menachem Aharon to comfort him, to give him some nechama. Vayom Moshe Aharon, and Moshe tells Aharon, Hu asher diber Adonai lemor bikrovai akadesh. This is what it means when Hashem said, I will be sanctified through those who are close to me. So, and he says, and I'll be honored before the entire people, and Aaron is Vayidom Aaron, and now Aaron accepts it. He signed, as we spoke about in the previous Dvar Torah. Aaron accepts it, it's a nechama. So what does it mean that Moshe tells Aaron, what is this nechama? That this is what it means that Hashem said, I'm going to be sanctified through them. Meaning there was a big Kiddush Hashem that took place through the death of Nadav and Avihu. So what does that mean? So says Rashi, Heichan diber, where did God say that, where does Hashem say that he's going to be sanctified through those that are close to him? So Rashi quotes a pasuk, I shall meet there with the Jewish people and I shall be sanctified through my honor. Don't read it that I'm going to be sanctified through my honor, rather read it through my honored ones. Meaning, Amar lo Moshe Aaron, Moshe tells Aaron Achi, says Aaron, my brother, Yodea Haiti, I knew that the Beit HaMikdash would become sanctified. Bibi Adam Shel Makom, for those that are intimate with Hashem. Vayiti Savor, O Vi Ovach, it's either going to be me or it's going to be you. Achshav Roeh Ani Shehem Gdolim Mimeni Umimcha. But now I see Aaron that they are holier than us because Hashem sanctified the temple through them. So it seems to be that this fire igniting the temple, this starting, this is the first day when the Mishkan is being inaugurated, and the fire comes down to Nadav and Avihu. It seems to be that Moshe was telling Aaron that originally I thought it was either going to be me or you, that we were going to be the ones that were going to die, that we're going to go in there and light the fire. But now that it's Nadav and Avihu, they are greater than us because Hashem sanctified the Beit HaMikdash through them. So based on that, Aaron feels better because wow, you know what, Moshe's right, they really were so holy. So what in the world is going on over here? Someone was supposed to die to ignite the Beit HaMikdash. It's supposed to be Moshe, Aharon. Now it's Nadav and Avihu. What in the world is going on over here? Okay, one more idea that the Shvilei Pinchas brings down is that the Gemara in Yomah brings down as follows. Rabbi Eliezer says, why did they die? So he says, Lo metu bnei Aaron, ela al shehoru halacha bifnei Moshe Rabban. He says, why did they die? Because they taught a halacha in front of Moshe Rabbeinu. They weren't supposed to. You're not supposed to give a halacha in front of your rabbi. They taught a halacha they weren't supposed to. My darush, what did they teach? So they taught a pasuk. The pasuk says, "Benatenu bnei Aaron hakohen eshal mizbeach." The sons of Aaron, they brought a fire on the mizbeach. Even though the fire came down from the heavens, it's a mitzvah that a person should light it from down below also. So what was the halakha they did? They said, we have to bring a fire ourselves into the Kodesh HaKodeshim, into the Beit HaMikdash. We got to bring that fire ourselves. So they bring in the fire from below. That is a true halakha, because every single day the Kohen have to light the fire, even though there's an esh min hashamayim, even though a fire comes down as well. And that halakha they did without consulting with Moshe, and they just did it themselves. So they did the right halacha, but without asking, and that's why they died. Okay, says the Shvilei Pinchas. Let's put it all together. What is really going on over here? What does it mean that they went in there, Mesirut Nefesh, they're willing to die? What is that Rashi back over there quoting, saying that, Moshe told Aharon that I thought the biggest Kiddush Hashem would come through me and you dying with the start of the Beit HaMikdash? Like, what in the world is going on over here? Okay. Says the Shvilei Pinchas, if you go back to the other Midrashim, at the very start, it says, God tells Moshe, go and bring Aharon, go bring him to go inaugurate the Beit HaMikdash. And Rashi brings down over there that Aharon was embarrassed to go. He's like, I'm not sure I'm supposed to be the one in charge over here. Maybe I shouldn't do it. Why was he so embarrassed? Because Aharon did the Heta Egel. He was involved in the sin of the golden calf. He helped the Jewish people make it and create it. And he felt, how in the world could I be the one to be the Kohen Gadol and serve for the Jewish people? I did all that avodah zarah with them, and if you actually go to the first korban that he's bringing at the very beginning, he's bringing an egel. He's actually bringing one of the first korbanot over there in the Beit HaMikdash is to bring a calf, which is like yelling in the face, Aharon, you did the egel hazahav. So he's thinking to himself, how in the world could I be Kohen Gadol? But Hashem tells Moshe, no, tell him that's the exact reason. The reason you feel so guilty right now, you feel so embarrassed right now, this is the exact reason why I want you to be the Kohen Gadol. Why? Because when Bnei Israel sinned with the Kohen Gadol, with the Egel HaZahav, so what happened? Moshe wasn't coming down. The people are freaking out. So they go to Hur. Hur was the guy that was in charge at this point. They say, Hur, build us an Egel HaZahav. And Hur tells them, over my dead body. And what do? They kill him. Then they go to Aharon. They say, Aharon, build us an Egel. And Aharon tells them, thinks to himself, wait a second. They just killed Hur. If I don't, if I don't build the egel, they're going to kill me too. And he remembered a pasuk that's going to be written in the future that's going to say that if the king and the kohen die in the same day, like there's no room for teshuvah. He says if they kill Hur, and Hur was in the tribe of Yehudah, he might have even been the Mashiach. If they're going to kill Mashiach and they're going to kill the Kohen Gadol on the exact same day, there's no way for them to do teshuvah. And Aaron says, okay, you know what? Maybe I can stall them. And he tries to get them to get their wives' jewelry, and he tries to slow them down. But it's not working. He's okay. Maybe if I help them a little bit, I'll be a part of it with them. I can slow them. I can try to do it for the right ways. I'll tell them it's Chag LaHashem. We'll try to bring God back into the picture. And even though he's getting dirty with them and he's helping them build this ego, which is going to become avodah zarah, but every step of the way he's trying to do it as a way to slow them down and also say that ultimately Hashem can't be so angry at them. Hashem's going to have to be angry at me. So Aaron's like trying to take responsibility for their sin and saying, you know what, God will take it out on me and not on them, because we can't have them murdering Hur and me at the same time. And he's doing all of this certain level of Mesirut Nefesh, where now, instead of actually dying like Hur, a different kind of Mesirut Nefesh, of sinning with them, doing what he doesn't want to be doing, but in the hopes of maybe trying to save them and trying to get them to Shuvah. And on that, Hashem is saying, you are the perfect person to be a Kohen Gadol. If you're really willing to give up your life, your future, your Olam Haba, your spirituality, just so that you can keep them on the right path and give them an opportunity to still do teshuvah, you're the exact guy that's supposed to be the Kohen Gadol. But says the Shvilei Pinchas, there still was something lacking, because ultimately he did help them do this egel, and egel was a really big chil Hashem. And if I remember correctly, actually, I think there's a Rashi somewhere else that says this is why he had to lose 2 of his kids, because of the egel hazahav, that you can, there was a certain kapara that has to happen, and that's going to be the death of his kids. But the Shvilei Pinchas is going to say a similar idea, but from a different angle. He's going to say that ultimately Aaron should have died. He should have given up his life. If someone tells you to do avodah zarah, it's one of the 3 cardinal sins, you die. So, sorry, Hur died, I'm going to die too, and Jewish people won't have any teshuvah. So he had this deep part in his heart where he says, you know what, I'd rather lose my olam haba, I'd rather lose it all, and that's why I can't be Kohen Gadol, I'm so evil, I'm so terrible, but he did it for the sake of the Jewish people. But there still was a sin over here. So on the one hand, this is where the world is very gray. On the one hand, Hashem is telling Aharon, I want you to be the Kohen Gadol. But on the other hand, in that exact same action that he did, there was a chil Hashem, and it was a chil Hashem that came about by not giving up his life. Says the Shvilei Pinchas, Aharon's kids realized this. Moshe realized this when they told Aaron there was supposed to be some kind of Mesirut Nefesh of a life over here at the start of the Beit HaMikdash. Aaron maybe should have died. Nadav and Avihu said, you know what? We're going to replace our Abba. We're going to give up our lives. We're going to go in there into the Holy of Holies. And if we're going to die doing it, we're going to do it. And we're going to bring in that fire. And that's the halakha that they taught in front of Moshe. Then instead of Moshe dying, instead of Aharon dying, they're the ones that are going to go in to do the teshuvah. And if we go back to the drasha to the Gemara that the Shvilei Pinchas quoted before from the Gemara, my darush, what drasha did they learn? So they learned the pasuk v'natnu bnei Aharon HaKohen esh al mizbeach, and the children of Aharon put a fire on the mizbeach. So he says he relearns it No, you're reading it wrong. It doesn't mean that the Kohanim are supposed to bring a fire on the Mizbeach, and they're saying, oh, even though a fire comes from the heaven, mitzvah la'avim min ha'hedyot, you should bring the people down below, we should bring a fire too. He says, no, read it differently. V'adanatnu bnei Aaron HaKohen esh. Bring bnei Aaron as the esh on the Mizbeach. They themselves should be the esh. They relearn the psukim to say, no, what does it mean bring, not that the children bring the children as the esh itself. Mitzvah la'avim min ha'hedyot, it's a mitzvah to bring the person himself. They said, we have to be the tshuva for our father for the sin of the Egel HaZahav. And that's what they did. And that's why it says over here, Bnei Aharon. It doesn't say Nadav and Avihu. It says the children of Aharon, because they were doing it for their Abba. They were giving up their lives to sanctify the Beit HaMikdash, to fix the Chet HaEgel for the sake of their Abba. And that's why it's Lifnei Hashem, because it was L'Shem Shamayim. It was for a holy purpose. So we see over here some deep ideas. That if what the Shvei Pinchas is saying is true, and this is a big chidush, it's a big chidush what he's saying over here. And you have a lot of Chazal that don't go this way, but if what he's saying is true, you just see this grayness in how the world works. That in that one action that Aharon did, with the Chet HaEgel, he saved the whole Jewish people. To the point that Hashem says that even though it was the biggest sin of Avodah Zarah, but because you had the right intentions and you were doing it for the Teshuvah process and to make sure they wouldn't be destroyed and to slow them down, all the good intentions that you had, I want you to be the Kohen Gadol. Because the fact that you're willing to get dirty for them, to save them, that makes you a Kohen Gadol. But there still was getting dirty. There still was the shmutz. There still was the chilul Hashem. And come along his children, and they say, you know what? We're going to teach the halacha in front of Moshe and Aaron, and we're going to give up our lives so they can go on and continue being the great leaders of the Jewish people. Shabbat Shalom.